On My Motivate, we revisit a conversation with public image consultant and entrepreneur Derek Banga on growing from boys to men. Will the real men please stand up? From boys to men, and we're not talking about the group. It's these struggles of the boy child are becoming a bit too much.
Yes.
How are grown men walking around calling themselves boy child?
Every time I hear that word, I think of a child, and a quote from the Bible comes to me. When I was a child, I thought like a child, I acted like a child. Now that you're a man, in fact, I would like to advocate that rather using the term boy child, use the term young man. You are a young man.
Yes.
And you're already, hopefully, beginning to develop traits, characteristics that will serve you in good stead as a man. So let's start there. So a grown man calling himself a boy child.
We're not going far. Just end that conversation there.
There you go. Right.
When you grow up a little bit more, then come to the table and maybe we can actually have a conversation.
Yeah, right. Unless you're truly acting as a child, then you deserve to be called a child.
Then you will be called what you are.
Young men are growing up in society where physical fitness is completely lacking. People are spending, and when I say people, I'm talking about young men, are spending the majority of their time sitting in front of the TV, binging on Netflix, posting pictures on Instagram, and not taking care of their physical well-being. Physicality is linked to mentality. The way that you process thoughts, the way that you are able to do analytical thinking, I think is based a whole lot on how physically fit you are. And I'm not talking about necessarily going to the gym and lifting weights and that sort of thing, but engaging in some physical exercise. These stories that we hear of men who are marauding the streets of Nairobi and attacking women and other men, where there are other men who are just sitting and watching
and recording
would
on their
never
phones.
happen, I think, if there was that sort of mentality where, you know what, if we are physically masculine. I'm not saying that I'm the sort of person who's necessarily going to jump at the first sign of trouble, but I think I would, because I know that I have mastery of my physical self. I know that I can involve myself in something that requires some sort of physicality, and hopefully able to equip myself well. Okay, if you look at the physical structure of a man, the body structure, God created a man, broad shoulders, narrow, the ideal concept of a man. And that is actually what he wants us to do. Now, whether it's farming on the land, or even if you're working in the office, I think that a lot of the problems that we have, whether it comes down to health, whether it comes down to how we behave in society, comes from the fact that we don't take that aspect of our being as serious. And it starts from a young age. Men need to act like men and use our emotional intelligence. So when you get cases of men who are physically abusing their partners, men who are verbally abusing other people, men who engage in even, Twitter tirades and things like that. You're a keyboard warrior. You go online and you troll people because you think that's what makes you a man. That is, to me, lack of that emotional intelligence, emotional mastery. How do you deal in a situation where you're with somebody and you are involved in a relationship and the going gets tough? Is yours to become physical? Is yours to go on a verbal tirade? I think men need, or young men in this case, need to be aware of this and start working towards being able to control and master their emotions. A lot of what we see in society today, whether it's, people in places of prominence, saying whatever it is that they want to say and thinking they're able to get out of it, a lot of that has to do with lack of that emotional capacity or emotional intelligence. Do you have a thirst for knowledge? When was the last time you picked up a book and you read? Do you encourage young people to read? Now, I'm not talking about reading 140 characters on Twitter. Yes, there's a time and place for that, and Facebook. I'm not saying get rid of social media, but I'm talking about what was the secret to the success of a Mandela or a Kenyatta or or Socrates. You know, the blueprint has already been written, you know, and you can simply find that information by having that thirst for that kind of knowledge and thirst for the right kind of knowledge, you know. So if it comes to style, for example, and grooming, have that thirst of knowledge to realize that I can go beyond just dressing the same way every day and perhaps improve myself depending on, you know, my circumstances or things like that. A thirst for that spiritual knowledge. I feel there's a lack of that intellectual curiosity, if I can use such a term, with a lot of young men.
It has been packaged and you pick it up and you put it in your mouth and you swallow it, but you don't question. You don't find out, where has this come from? Why is this resonating with me? Why is this not right for me? Why do I need... There's that curiosity, it died.
Yeah, there's accepting things the way they are. And not necessarily that I expect you to be a rebel or expect you to necessarily lead a revolution when it comes to something, but I expect you to be able to try and collect all this different type of information. Actually, social media has made it easy. You can go on any platform these days and find out more information. But I would like to see, as I said, that intellectual curiosity and then a mastery of that intellect. So pick something, decide you're going to be good at it, master that particular thing. Listen, I don't knock people who have side hustles. Believe me,
we all need side hustles.
But you have mastered your craft, Sheila. This is what you're good at. This is what people know you for. You may have other things going on the side. There's nothing wrong with that. But have you mastered your craft? Do you go out and watch interviews that other people have done, develop different interviewing styles, all of that sort of stuff, which makes you master at what you're doing.
Right.
This is what I'd like young men to do. Pick something. All right, I'm going to be a plumber. I am going to be the Picasso. I'm going to be the Michelangelo of plumbers. I may have a real estate business on the side, but when it comes to this particular area,
you can't touch me.
I'm going to become a master. That's what we're talking about.
Becoming a master. As we get ready to close, you know, Derek, I can speak to you until the cows come home. It's always a wonderful time to chat with you. Let's just be very clear about what a man is, because we jumped into this conversation, and I think it's important for us to define a man.
Great question. And you're right. It is difficult to define a man. Everybody might have a different take. So I'll give you Derek Banga's take.
Yeah. We can live with that.
This might not necessarily be my unique version of how I see a man, but certainly how I would like to see our young men as they turn into men who are fully contributing to society and taking a great country like ours, which has potential, forward.
Right.
I'll use a term called heteropolitan. Now, heteropolitan, again, that's not a term unique to me. You can look it up online.
No, don't tell them what it means. Let them look. Reading. It's all in encouraging the reading.
But that's a sort of man who, as I said, contributes gainfully, positively towards society. This is a sort of man who, when it comes to relationships, you know, whether it's relationships with people at work, relationships with his friends, relationships with his partner, espouses particular values, fidelity, honesty, you know, trustworthiness, that sort of thing. Not the man who has multiple partners and is revered in society because he hops in and out of bed, but the man who can stand up after being with 35 years of the same woman and every day and say, that is my woman and I love her. That is the role model. That's the kind of man that I want to see in society. The kind of man who, for example, you know, takes how they are seen in public seriously. So in terms of the communication style, what they say, how they speak, you know, whether it's using words of politeness and things like that. You know, there's certain people who, when they carry themselves out in public with other people, you can sort of see that they have a respect, not just for themselves, but a respect for other people, and also how they're seen in society. You know, so, you know, for example, when I talk about grooming and style, people say, all right, you want to be this and that. And I say, listen, this is how I want the world to see me. Right. Somebody who respects myself and I respect other people. I'm not saying you have to become a clothes horse or become a fashion maven. But there's certain basic standards that you need to be able to espouse. That's the sort of man I want to see. But that's the same man who can protect his loved one when she's having her earrings snatched on a street in Nairobi, you know? So you're
Not
physical,
there with the telephone.
but you still...
Hold on,
you know,
honey. Let me just Facebook. Let me just Twitter this now. Right.
You know, the kind of guy who can, I don't know, change a tire, for example. I want to see some of these old-fashioned...
No, there's some things we
there are things that I don't know if
need.
you can...
I get it completely. You cannot define the man, but you know a man when you're in the presence of a man.
Yeah, and women, I think, want that kind of man. That's the kind of man they want to respond to. They want a man that they can look up to, that they can be proud of, whether that's a family member or a partner or somebody they know in their social circle or in business, and say, yeah, that person sort of espouses a sort of values that I would like to see more of
someone who respects
in our society.
You, someone who wants the best for you, someone who's not threatened by you or your power or your future or your dreams or your plans, but somebody who's going to walk with you and let you be the best you.
Yeah. They're out there, Sheila.
I haven't given up, you know. That's why we're having this conversation.
Absolutely out there. There need to be more of them, and this needs to start at a young age.